Good evening, beautiful people. So, last week's video we were looking at contact, how kind of contact shows up, how contact is made. We're kind of exploring some of the aspects and questions around that. And that got me thinking. So, I sat there and thought, how was it? What was some of the tips, techniques? What were some of the things that Spirit taught me to use all those years back? And then I remembered one of the really powerful tools that I had within my toolkit, my toolbox, was actually a spirit guide journal. I can remember as I sat in development circle and as I moved through my day to day, I carried a little notebook with me. Like the notebooks reporters have, nice pocket-sized notebook, and I would kind of write in there some of the things that I would experience, some of the things that come to mind. One of the sayings that I have, and I was sharing with a very dear friend recently, only a few days back, and we were talking about how when you go to work, when you go to consult, for her, she's a psychic artist, and how when you kind of move into that space to connect, that all information's information. So, how spirits show up, the tone, the feeling, what you're feeling in that moment. As I've said many times, it is all vital information. All information's information. So having a notepad and pen all those years ago really served me. And it's almost like you dedicate that notebook, that journal, to spirit. And for me, it was an incredible tool. And here's some kind of little story to kind of drive home how important it was as a tool. So I would use it in development circle. Afterwards, I'd sit there and kind of write about what I've experienced, anything that come to mind. That's the key that I had really understood. I understand all these years later that what we feel within the subtle is key core information. So what we feel, what we think, what comes to mind is all vital information. And I wrote down in my notepad the word kun, okay, and I just simply wrote the word kun. I could hear this word kun. Then I heard a little bit later the word shen, kun shen. Now what was interesting was the week before I had within my awareness in development circle felt this Chinese Oriental man standing over my shoulder, and I could see him very clearly. I could see this Mandarin jacket, I could see this long white hair, I could feel this white beard, and a glint, his eyes shone. And then the following week, the word kun, the word shen, and then I kind of done some research, research, through kind of books and really trying to get to grips, and nothing came, nothing come to mind, nothing really showed up, and it wasn't till years later when we've got the access to the internet that I discovered the word kunshen meant heaven meets earth. So how relevant was that? How relevant was that? Heaven meets earth. Meaning, he's from spirit, coming down to the earth plane, guiding, working with me. Heaven meets earth. Incredible validation, incredible confirmation. So without that notebook, that information would have got lost. I would have just kind of lost that information to time and to history. It would have just maybe disappeared on me. But the fact was, years later, I could look through it I could look through it and reference it, and there it was, and then I was intrigued, and then I was able to kind of research it using the internet and the wide web. And that was incredible. Over time, that notebook become really, really, really kind of really powerful. And names would appear, and I can remember writing down this name Alice, 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 and then as it changed to Alice, it actually went to Alex, and then a family friend come to mind over and over and over. And remember, this was the early days. This was months into my journey consciously, and the name Alice then went to Alex, and then this family friend come to mind. And I remember one day just turning to them and saying, do you know an Alex? And it just kind of looked at me really shocked and went, yes, my dad who died. And remember, this was an older family friend, and I was taken back, and this was literally months within months of sitting within that development circle. A journal or notebook can absolutely serve you. Devote it. Devote it as I did to increasing your communication between you and spirit. It's almost like a sacred place where you can write your guides a letter and ask for assistance in maybe specific ways. Let's face it, our guides know our life very well. They know us probably better than we know ourselves. Remember what I was telling you last week is feeling that new guide and that new energy. Who are you? What are you about? Actually saying who are you and what are you about. It can be a powerful way to kind of ask those questions, and then it's about just gently just then writing and seeing what comes back to you. If you've got a really burning specific question, how about writing that at the top of the page, and then as the week goes by, just sit down of an evening and write a few lines and just see what comes to mind. Just see, don't kind of read it back till you've written it. Don't think about it. Just start writing and see what comes to mind. See what turns up. And then as the week progresses, see what signs show up, what signs you kind of receive, what thoughts come to mind. Remember, it's just trying to spot also the subtlety. You can write at the beginning of the week, and kind of express that gratitude for them working with you, and then just each evening spend a few sentences kind of writing back, and see what kind of at the end of the week, read back and see what kind of is in there, and then watch for those synchronicities, watch for those coincidences. As I always say, it's never by chance, it's by design. So that's another really powerful tool that you can use. Start a spirit guide journal, and a notebook dedicated to spirit. And as I say, just kind of watch out for the subtleties. Try not to interfere too much. Place the question at the top of the page, and then each evening just write a few lines, and then over the week then read it back and see what you can extract from it. For me, it was a vital tool, and I didn't even know really how vital that was until those years later, and then realising that was one of the first contacts I made with spirit. This old man, Chinaman, appearing, and then all those years later understanding the name meant heaven meets earth. just profound. We're always unlocking, we're always unraveling, we're always learning. So until next time, I'll be seeing you, but keep shining.